Well, welcome, everybody. This is our second Thursday of the month, monthly event for the Concord Historical Society. We're able to do this because we've gotten some help, actually, from the Walk a Lecture program. And not too long ago, we did a whole program on the Walk a Lecture program, and it was great. And that, which tied us into the Walker family and so forth. And I know you have a connection with them today after 200 years, I guess. But anyways, we thought we'd have some fun tonight because we've been trying to get Jeff to come for a while, and here he is. But Concord has some wonderful stores down on Main Street, and as things change on Main Street, there's still some that are there and are still very successful. Just off the top of my head, Endicott Furniture, Gibson's bookstore. I think Gibson's 125 years. I think Endicott is 100. You guys you'll tell us about that. I
Sure.
won't take your thunder. So thank you for coming, and we've got another plan for next month too, and so we'll look forward to seeing you then. And if you'd like to get one of our history books, we do have those here, and they're a special deal tonight. Those are the keepsake editions, and I think they're $49.95. And other than that, welcome. And Jeff, you've got the floor. Have some fun.
I will. I'll do my best.
Okay.
Thank you, Jim. Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you, Jim. Thank you for everyone else for coming. It's always fun to be able to talk about the business that my grandfather started here in Concord almost 100 years ago, as Jim had mentioned. And there are some other really great, wonderful businesses that are still family-owned down in downtown Concord that are 100 years old or more. So it's great to be part of that group. But to start with a short history, I'll try to be brief. My grandfather, Peter, came to this country from Greece just after the turn of the century, last century. And he settled originally down in Lawrence, Massachusetts. He had relatives and family members down there, and they took him in. And he was looking for a job, and at the time, there were some pretty large candy factories down there, and he got a job working in one of them. And that's where he learned the trade. That's where he learned how to make hard candies and toffee and fudge and all these other things. And he took that skill. I should say, let me back up. While he was down there, he was still not married, and he hadn't started his family. Something interesting about my grandfather was that he was always unlike myself, a very sharp dresser, and he really liked nice clothing. And there was a tailor that was also owned by another Greek immigrant down in Lawrence, and he would go in, and he'd ask to have shirts made, and he'd ask to have pants made, and eventually he noticed that there was this, he thought, very attractive young woman who was working in the tailor shop, and he eventually got up the courage to ask the tailor himself. He says, "Who is this? Who is this lovely woman here?" And he's like, "Well, that's my sister." And eventually they introduced one another, introduced him to his sister, and they began a courtship, and soon enough they were married. They were married down in Lawrence. And that's where they started their family there, and it was several years later that they moved up here to Concord. And he brought with him his family and his skill as a candy maker, and in 1927, he started the Granite State Candy Shop over on Warren Street in the same location that it is today. So when you go into that shop, we've been selling and making candy there for almost 100 years. So that's sort of the original, the origin story of how we came about. Later on, his family grew and grew, and he had 3 daughters and 2 sons, and both of his sons, my father Costa and his older brother George, came into work in the business full time. Now let me say this too. Everyone that was in that family worked in the business at one point or another, whether they wanted to or not. So they were there after school, they were there very late into the evening, many nights, especially before holidays, making whatever needed to get made, whether it was candy canes or ribbon candy or fudge or caramel, you name it. They were there to help make it. It was really very much of a family affair. For sure, there were nights they were there very, very late, and my grandmother would make food at home, pack it all up, and bring it all down to the shop, and they'd all eat at night in the shop. So it was a really fun family environment for sure. And I will say this too. This is one of my favorite stories, because I'm such a fan of the Godfather movies, is that when my grandfather started the business, he had a business partner. And it didn't go along the way he had hoped. And what I like to say, it's not really what happened, but what I like to say is that he made his business partner an offer he couldn't refuse. And soon enough, his business partner was off, and he was there by himself. So in any event, as the business grew and changed and expanded, he decided that he wanted to also, in addition to candies, because at the time in downtown Concord, there were several other candy places that were making all kinds of different things, some bigger, some smaller. The Puritan was down on Main Street, and they were a very similar type of a business. And then there was a very large chocolatier called Treesman's that also existed in Concord. And my grandfather at the time thought it would be beneficial to offer something else. So he started to also make ice cream. And for many years, he had what was called the Annex, the Granite State Annex, and it was in the storefront right next door to the original candy shop. And there he had a lunch counter, and he had homemade ice cream and a whole bunch of other offerings. So you could go in, you could get a sandwich, you could get an ice cream, and probably spend a dime and go off and be happy. So it was great. And he did that and ran both the candy business and the ice cream business until rationing took hold during World War II. So once he couldn't get enough cream and butter and sugar to make ice cream, candy, and everything else, he closed down the ice cream shop and stopped offering it and focused just on candies. Earlier I mentioned Treesman's. There was a chocolate hand dipper there. Her name was Phyllis Ranlett, and she was the best, the absolute best. And my grandfather wanted her to work for him. So he did everything he could and eventually succeeded in luring her away from Treesman's. And she was the hand dipper for my grandfather, oh my goodness, up until 1972, when she finally decided she wanted to start scaling back and retire. And I was maybe this tall, but I remember going into the shop and going out back where she would sit. My uncle would make her things to dip in chocolate, and she would sit there, and just with a pool of chocolate, she would temper it, add more chocolate to it, and she would just know the chocolate was ready to use just by feel. And she would dip the centers, she would put them down and put an absolutely gorgeous decoration right on top of each individual chocolate by hand. And each one looked exactly the same, and she knew what all the decorations were and could repeat them over and over and over again. It was artistry. It was absolute artistry and a wonder to watch. So I'm lucky that I got to see her do her thing before she fully retired. So what happened when Phyllis retired? Well, we had no choice. We had to bring some automation into the business. So what replaced Phyllis was something called an enrober. And what this is a big, long piece of equipment that allows you to put chocolate and a decoration, just like Phyllis did, on whatever you make, whether it's a caramel or a buttercream or a honeycomb chip. Whatever you fed down this little belt, conveyor belt, got coated and decorated, came out the other end, went through a long cooling tunnel, and it was a finished chocolate. So that's how we still make things today. We have more than one enrobing line now, and they're a lot bigger than they used to be, but that's how we do it now today.
Does the decoration tell you what kind of chocolate it is?
It still does, absolutely. Yep, it still does. So there was a time we would, rather than putting this is the decoration that Phyllis would make on each chocolate was called a chocolate string. And so for a time, what we were doing is we were touch decorating each individual chocolate as it come out of our enrober, moving very slowly down this little conveyor belt. We would touch each one with a special little dipping fork, and it would leave an impression. And all those impressions were different, so we could tell what was inside. Yep, absolutely. Now we have something that's called a stringer. So we actually use the chocolate that's inside of our chocolate enrober that's creating this chocolate waterfall, that everything that runs through it gets coated with chocolate. This special little machine is able to put all these fancy decorations right on top of the chocolate. So a lot like Phyllis used to do by hand, now this machine does it for us. And they look wonderful. We still use the decorations to tell them apart, and it makes the chocolate look nicer too. So, but yeah, that is by and large, we're doing the same things that my grandfather used to do. We're just doing it in a slightly different way. We're still roasting nuts, making fudge, making truffles, and back in 2003, we did a big renovation of our Warren Street store, and at that time, we expanded the store, and we're able to bring back homemade ice cream. So that was really important to us. If we're going to have more space, we wanted to make super premium ice cream again. And ever since 2003, we've been making ice cream. And one of the great things that I like to talk about is that all of the dairy that goes into our ice cream now comes from the cows at Kentucky Creamery. So the Bohannon farm, the Robertson family that's been running that farm for a very long time, their cows make the milk that goes right into our ice cream. So it's as local and fresh as you could possibly get. They're a wonderful family. We've had a great relationship with them for a very long time. Great people. All their kids are now involved in the business, so you get the multi-generations all working together and having a ball, I think, most of the time at least. So what else can I tell you? Jumping back a little bit, so my grandfather and his family kind of ran the shop together from 1927 to about 1956. And that's when my grandfather decided he really didn't want to work every day, and he didn't want to have to come in and do everything. My father had finished his degree at UNH, came back, and he and his brother George were working together in the business full time. My grandfather was going back to Greece and staying, and then coming back to check on things, and going back to Greece and staying. And then he finally came back and said, I'm going back, but I'm not coming back here to Concord. I'm staying in Greece. And he left and lived with his sisters, who were still in Greece and had never left. And one of the things and you can't really see it, and I apologize, but one of the things that he wanted to bring back to Greece with him, and I'll pass this around if you want to see it, was a Harley Davidson. So he brought this back with him, but unfortunately for him, he didn't know how to ride it. So in the background here is one of his good friends named Mr. Macris, and he did know how to ride it. So Mr. Macris would drive him around on his own motorcycle. In Greece. Yep, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. A very well-known family here in Concord as well. I don't know if there is any kind of relationship there or not, but I did meet him. I met him one time when I was very small. They all came back, or he came back. I was maybe 3, 4 years old, and I do remember meeting him. And what the thing I remember most about it was that they brought us ice cream. So we were somewhere, and he brought us an ice cream cone, and I thought that was great. So, but good fun. So we have lots of old pictures like this of my grandfather, back in Greece, and also, of course, here as well. But
was his name really Bart?
no, no. A lot of the names, a lot of the Greek names got changed and Americanized to some extent. So his name in Greece was Vartis with a V. And then he also had in Greece relatives that were named Bartis. So when he got here, he dropped the end of his name. He also has direct relatives, cousins, that went by Vumverus, so which we don't quite understand how and why they chose that particular name, other than in prior generations, it was a fairly common middle name. So we think that in coming here and trying to get through Ellis Island or wherever they happened to come, they were just assigned that name. So,
yes.
yeah.
And did he come through the statue of Ellis Island?
They did. They did come through Ellis Island, and we think that. And I brought this with. This is one of my favorite old metal molds here. We have lots and lots and lots of them, but this we think he bought mainly because to celebrate coming to America and being an American. He was very proud of that. This is a chocolate mold. So, yep, it comes in 2 pieces, and these are holding the 2 pieces together. So you would fill this with chocolate, and in all likelihood, they probably made it hollow. So they would fill it with chocolate and then dump out some of the excess, and then set it down, and it would form a bottom. And then you'd take these pins off and then separate the mold, and you'd have a chocolate Statue of Liberty. So we have lots and lots of these, lots of bunnies, lots of Santas. And if you go into the Warren Street shop and you look up in back of our showcases, we have lots of them up there on display. But this is one of my favorite ones here. And then over the years, of course, we've changed our packaging and changed how we package things sometimes. But this is one of the oldest known examples of some of the original packaging that he was using. And I have a couple of examples. But you'll note on here is that the telephone number is just 4 digits. It's blue, I think, so everyone would know that he was Greek. And then there are some, what I would consider rather Greek-looking women holding the lights in their hand here. So this is one of my favorite old packages from the shop. I brought another a little later. They moved to a green packaging here. There's someone stirring a kettle here. And then we still have just the 4 digits for the telephone number, but the 13 Warren Street still pretty consistent. And then to get with the times today, so I don't know if any of you are familiar with the chocolate Dubai bars. So this is kind of a crazy trend right now. But this is our package for our chocolate Dubai bar, and we've been making these, and they've been selling like gangbusters this summer. So it's been fun. So it's made with milk chocolate. Inside there is a combination of pistachio paste, chocolate, a little bit of coconut oil, sesame tahini, and something called katafi, which is a roasted, shredded phyllo dough. It's all mixed together and put inside, or it makes the filling of the bar. So you get this silky, creamy pistachio flavor and the crunch of the katafi. So those of you that are familiar with Greek and Mediterranean desserts, phyllo dough is very, very popular. It's used in a lot of them, as well as katafi as well. This was not, Greek in origin. This was someone developed this in Dubai, and it's become so popular. We had so many requests that we decided we had to make one too. So they're fun. They're good. They're really delicious. So, and then later on, I brought chocolate bars, of course, for everyone. So.
Was your mother from Concord?
My mother was not from Concord. My mother was from Tennessee. So she grew up in a small town called Tazewell, which is not terribly far from Knoxville, on a farm. She had 13 brothers and sisters. She had an older sister named Fleta, and she met a young man who was in the service at the time, and he was from Pembroke. And she decided she was going to marry him, and the couple moved back to Pembroke, and that's where they settled and lived and raised their family. And my mother, being several years younger, when she was ready to not be on the farm anymore, she moved in with them. And she was looking for a job. She was quite young at the time, in her 20s, and she wandered into the candy shop. And she was hired there, and then several years later, she married my dad. So, yeah, that's how they met. And from there, they started their family. They were married in 1964, and started their family a few years later. And there are 3 children in my family, my older brother Michael, myself, and my younger sister Jennifer. So.
Now, did your uncle do the same thing?
Back then, they were working so much that, yeah, they didn't have a lot of opportunity to kind of go and socialize, so to speak. But he also found someone who, through a friend, that was also working close by, not in the shop at the time, but certainly later after they married. Both my mom and my aunt, Aunt Mary, worked in the candy shop, especially during the holidays. Yeah, they worked there. They were packing boxes, waiting on customers, doing whatever needed to be done. So they worked for years and years and years in the shop together. My uncle retired in 1995. So quite a while ago, and that's really when myself and my brother came back into the business sort of full time. I had finished college and had spent some time in Chicago and wasn't real happy doing what I was doing out there. And my uncle wanted to retire, so I had to kind of choose what I was going to do. And I'm like, okay, I'll come back. I'll give this a whirl. And it worked out well. It worked out well. So my brother and I ran the business together from 1995 until 2015, and that's when my brother sadly passed away suddenly. And it's been myself and my mom stuck around for quite a long time. Thankfully now she's 84 and she's now fully retired. But I used to reel her in as much as I could during the holidays to get her to help. But now she's retired. She's 84 and still as spry as can be. She's in a bowling league and still goes out and walks, drives, and is as independent as one could hope for. So yeah, she's great. Yes.
What made your grandfather choose Concord?
At the time, sure. At the time, there was quite a decent-sized Greek population up here, and they had yet to build the church, the Holy Trinity Church on State Street. And but there was still quite a large population, lots of relatives, and lots of other Greek folks up here in the Concord area. So that's what drew him up here. And eventually they wound up down on Dunkley Street. They lived on Dunkley Street, it's where my father grew up, and with his siblings. And where they lived until my grandfather decided he was going back to Greece and wasn't coming back. So, yeah. Anyone else questions or?
Well, I remember George and Costa working together.
Sure. Yep.
And their personalities were different.
Oh yeah.
Which was fascinating at times. So
sure.
when I would go in to visit, there would be definitely two distinctly different conversations. I often wondered how they managed to get along. But
Yeah.
they did.
Yeah, they for years and years and years. Yep, they did different things. So they had their own areas of the business that they kind of looked out for, and I think that's kind of how they were able to manage their relationship. Now, in any family business, you know, there are those times in which you have your ups and downs and so forth. But by and large, there were. I mean, all of us kids, both my siblings and my cousins, we all worked in the shop. So during the holidays, it was all hands on deck, and we're all there. Christmas and whatever holidays else they needed us to go in there and help out. And way back then, those that remember, the shop was very, very small and very, very crowded, and it was very difficult to kind of maneuver through there during the Christmas or the Valentine's Day or Easter. And yeah, we needed all hands to try to just get through the holidays most of the time. So, but yeah, it was fun.
Story about your mother coming to work in the store. I think Granite State can take credit for a number of marriages in this community.
Well, that's a nice thought. I like that. I like that idea. I'm sure you're right. So, yeah. So yeah, I mean, it's been a family affair from the beginning. I have a 17-year-old son, and at the moment he's more interested right now in riding his bike and skiing than really anything else, and he is interested in cooking, which is awesome. He's a really great cook. He's in the CRTC program at Concord High School right now, and he's really enjoying himself and having a great time with it, and shows some real promise with cooking and that kind of thing, which is in the culinary field. So that's exciting for him. You know, I'm very proud of him for that, for sure. So, yeah. I'm sure I've missed many things. Does anyone else have questions? Sherry?
No, I was just saying, you know, so I was a Granite State candy girl. And that was like, you know, when I was in the 70s in high school, that was a really coveted job to work there at the store.
Sure.
Because my first job was I worked for Gloria Bishop, who owned the S&D Mill outlet, a fabric store on Main Street. And she ran a tight ship there, but she was kind of funny because she discovered that she had girls working for her part-time under 18, she only had to pay us 75% of the minimum wage. So I worked for her for about a year for $1.73 an hour.
Oh boy.
And one day I walked by the candy store on my way down to her store, and there was a sign, you know, help wanted. So I stopped in and filled out an application, and I got a job, and I made $2.25 an hour. That meeting, it was 1975, and you know, that was good money for an after-school job.
For sure, yeah.
But
yeah.
I learned, you learned really quick working for George and Costa. 1 o'clock meant, at 1 o'clock, you had your apron on and you were on the floor. That didn't mean you were just walking in the door.
Yeah.
And you did not use the telephone because everybody still had a landline.
Yep.
That was for business, that phone, and you had to ask one of them if you needed to use the phone.
You did, indeed, right? And for years, there was just that one phone on the wall, and that was the only way for people to get in touch with us. There was no internet. We didn't even have a fax machine. And in fact, at the time, we had no computers at all. So if you wanted to, and we had many, and I'm sure you remember people calling up during the holidays, and they wanted to place orders to come and pick up or to ship out or what have you. And it was, it was very, very important that.
And it was the big old cash register
Ye-
with the arm you pulled
Yeah.
on it.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. Yep.
And the trays, because we used to make the soft centers
Yes.
upstairs.
Yep.
And you take 3 wooden trays, they were probably about this long and about 6 or 8 inches wide. And we learned to take 3 or 4 of them up and down the stairs.
Oh, yes.
How many to
Yep.
the cellar, because that's where the enrober
That's
was.
where the enrober was. Yep. We'd make them upstairs, you're
Yeah.
right. And we'd have to walk them down the stairs.
Somebody would be at one end putting them
Yep.
on, and George would sit there with his little
Yep.
wand,
And
making
he-
marks. And we would sit, one of us girls would sit at the other end packing them, and all you could think
Yep.
of was the old Lucy show where
Uh-huh.
she's like, seriously.
Yeah, absolutely. Sometimes I wish I could make it go that fast, but I can't. It's got to go nice and slow. Chocolate takes quite a long time to cool down, so we can't make that belt run much further or much faster. No Lucy, unfortunately.
At the end, the last night before a holiday, I remember George and Costa would take big brown shopping bags and they'd go around the store.
Yep.
And they would fill these bags for each of us girls to take home. And we did. We walked out of there with a shopping bag full of candy. And it all
Yep.
just got shared with family and
For
friends.
sure. Yeah, it's a tradition we have kept, and we still do that for everybody. Yep, absolutely. If you're there and you're working during one of our big holidays, it's exhausting. It's very tiring. You're on your feet all day long, and you're waiting on customer after customer, and everyone leaves with still a big bag of holiday candy for sure. Yeah.
The best part about the job was you could nibble. But I'd go home I'd leave there and go out somewhere, and people would be like, "What is that? You smell so good." Because it does.
It does. It gets in your clothes, and it's great.
Now I just smell like the barn.
Yeah. So it's been a great business. I mean, our family is very, very grateful. We've had wonderful success and so many amazing multi-generational customers. This is someone whose grandmother came in, and then they've come in for their children and for their grandmother, and then they would also then bring their grandchildren in, and it would continue and go on. And it's one of the things that we're very proud to offer, is that there is this consistency from year to year, from generation to generation. Many of the same candies, made the same way. In many cases, cooked in the same copper pots that my grandfather and my uncle were using back then. So it's nice. It's nice to be part of that. It's nice to continue the tradition. It's still a lot of hard work. There's a lot more of us now that do the job. So I have a lot more people that make candies, chocolates, molded items, and so forth, and a lot more that package them, and certainly a lot more retail folk than we did way back when. And then the business is different too. We do a lot more wholesale now, and then certainly lots and lots of orders over the internet. More than it's a continually growing part of our business. So,
Can you tell us a little bit about the nut side of the business?
sure.
You have roasters and so forth?
We do indeed, and it's especially during the holidays. Still one of our most popular things are roasted cashews. So we still purchase raw Indian cashews. And we roast them, fresh. During the Christmas season, we're roasting them every other day. We sell lots and lots and lots of them. We have mixed nuts. We roast peanuts, macadamia nuts, pecans, and from time to time we'll get something else, some other nut, walnuts and things like that. but just for the holidays, just for Christmas time. So yeah, nut roasting is very important just for retail sale as roasted nuts, but we also roast a lot of nuts to use in our products as well. So whether it's nut barks, clusters, nut clusters, or something like almond butter crunch, which is one of our most popular products. So we're buying a lot of nuts to roast and use in the things that we make in the shop too. Yep, for sure.
And you make your ice cream, I see.
We make all of our own ice cream. Yep, absolutely. We have a machine that makes a batch for us is we use about 5 gallons of liquid ice cream mix in the machine, and what it will produce is typically anywhere between 3 and 4 2.5 gallon tubs of ice cream. And the freezing process takes anywhere from 8 to 12 minutes. So we're able to make a lot of ice cream in a pretty short period of time. Yep, it's been a great way for us to keep ourselves busy over the summer months. So when I was a kid working at the shop in the summer, it was very, very slow. So we'd all sit around and play cards. You know, there really wasn't much to do during the summer months. And you could probably at the time find my father and uncle across the street hanging out in Joe King's with Joe and his son Tom. But yeah, he would, in the Farrelly brothers, they would be in there too. And they'd be in there a lot of the day, and there wasn't much going on. But adding ice cream back into the mix for us has really kind of pushed that envelope for us. So there's no downtime for us anymore. It's sort of all the time busy. And we sell a lot more chocolates and candies in the summer months now too, so because of that.
Is the ice cream year-round?
It is in Manchester, yeah. And we're hoping that maybe sometime soon we'll have a larger ice cream area in our shop on Warren Street, and then we will have it year-round. So.
Wow. Hey, this was fun, huh?
Thank you. Appreciate it. My pleasure. Yeah.
Folks, I bet you could come up and ask some questions, and there may even be something in that box you might be interested in. So we'll look forward to seeing you next month, second Thursday, 7 o'clock, and it'll be a good time. See you then. Thank you for coming.